United Nations says it is a waste of time for all its weapons inspectors to remain in Iraq.
Central America and the devastation of Hurricane Mitch. It's 6 p.m. on the East Coast, 3 p.m. in the West. Today is November 7th. I'm Gene Randall in Washington.
And I'm Rena Colby in Atlanta. There are signs today of increasing impatience with the current Iraq-United Nations confrontation over United Nations weapons inspectors. United States President Bill Clinton is meeting this weekend with his national security team. A senior official says Mr. Clinton is determined to end Iraq's defiance once and for all. With nothing to do, a team of United Nations weapons inspectors left Iraq today. CNN's Jane Arif reports from Baghdad.
15 inspectors left Baghdad, the first of about a quarter of the 120-member staff that will be pulled out over the next few days. UNSCOM says they've been wasting their time since Iraq put a halt to weapons inspections last week. It's that ban that has the U.S. again threatening to attack Baghdad. U.S. Defense Secretary William Cohen returned after touring the region to rally support for an attack if Baghdad doesn't back down. There are questions as to what a military strike on Iraq would really accomplish. Despite Baghdad's public rejection of the latest UN resolution, the search for a diplomatic solution continues. The UN's special envoy for Iraq, Prakash Shah, has been meeting with Deputy Prime Minister Tariq Aziz in an attempt to avert an attack.
So the Secretary General and I are pursuing that matter.
The bottom line, diplomats say, Iraq wants clear assurances that the U.S. won't block easing of sanctions if Baghdad is seen to have complied with weapons resolutions. Without that, they won't even consider resuming cooperation, no matter what the consequences.
A military strike is a strike that have used it many times. We are not fearing of any military strike. And we are ready to confront any military strike.
On the street, where political rhetoric is often betrayed by the price of flour, there seemed to be confidence that Iraq would weather this storm. Wholesalers said, unlike in previous times of crisis, there was little stockpiling and prices were holding steady. Some things still thrive under sanctions, like these Iraqis doing their best to drown out the rumblings of war. Jane Araf, CNN, Baghdad.
As the United States and Iraq again appear close to a military showdown, according to one observer, international support is growing, even among Iraq's former supporters, to end the impasse.
Rarely has there been, since the Gulf War, such unity, diplomatic unity. The administration worked very hard on that these last months, and they've gotten to the point where France and Russia, the two nations most interested in getting Saddam out from under sanctions, are no longer supportive of him. They're fed up.
Thursday, the United Nations Security Council voted unanimously for a resolution calling on Baghdad to resume cooperation with weapons inspectors.
The U.S. brokered land for security deal between Israel and the Palestinians is on hold. Israel says it won't ratify last month's Wye River Accord until it gets security assurances from the Palestinians following this week's terrorist attack in Jerusalem. Here is CNN's Gerald Kessel.
Yusuf Ali Zuraya's family mourns. He was one of the young Palestinians who was blown up in their attempt to bomb shoppers in the Jerusalem market. The home of his accomplice, Suleiman Dahaine, is near the West Bank town of Jenin. The radical Islamic Jihad group, in a leaflet, describes them as heroes. Their action is not the first and would not be the last, the leaflet promises. After the attack, Palestinian officials confirm dozens of members of the Islamic Jihad have been detained by Yasser Arafat's security forces. After convening his cabinet, the Palestinian leader also took a first step towards fulfilling another key Israeli demand. The PLO's executive endorsed his letter to President Clinton, specifying the annulment of clauses in the Palestinian National Charter which call for Israel's elimination. Arafat has allowed some political demonstrations by fervent opponents of the Wye Land for Security deal, but the crackdown on militants raises the risk of domestic criticism.
The Palestinian leadership has a responsibility to protect its own people and should not be placed on probation or good behavior in order to deliver only to the Israelis. This would undermine it in the eyes of its own people.
Those Palestinians who carried on this attack are asking Mr. Netanyahu, don't redeploy, don't withdraw your forces from the Palestinian occupation. they are acting against the Palestinian national security and the Palestinian national interests.
To secure the wire cord, the United States applied enormous pressure on both sides. It was especially intense on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Despite Friday's market bombing, Washington continues to urge Israel to approve the accord. But Mr. Netanyahu is also under pressure from his domestic critics.
The people in Israel are really scared from this kind of situation, and they are asking themselves why we are signing this kind of agreement with the Palestinians if they allowed to those people to arrive to our area and to kill people.
In a fluid situation, Netanyahu is expected eventually to ask his cabinet to approve the wire cord, particularly in light of the Palestinian actions.
Publicly, while he castigates the Palestinians, privately he has been commending their security plan. He will continue working on this dual track of being both for and against the agreement until he has no more choice and he has to implement, and even then he might criticize his own implementation.
The pressures that both leaders came under during the wire talks and after have been accentuated by the market attack. But those same pressures are forcing Benjamin Netanyahu and Yasser Arafat into a tighter and tighter embrace, whatever public reluctance they might show about that cooperation. Cheryl Kessel, CNN, Jerusalem.
In Central America, the rebuilding from Hurricane Mitch has begun. Washed-out roads and bridges are slowly being restored. Thousands of homeless storm victims normally depend on those roads for their food and water. The relief effort is in many ways a race against time. Medical supplies are running low as health officials warn that epidemics could be the next big danger.
The United States is contributing $70 million to get life in the region back to normal. Most of the relief supplies are being delivered by the military. CNN's Pat O'Neill is at the American base in Soto Cano, Honduras.
From its central facility in Soto Cano, Honduras, the U.S. military rapidly ferries emergency relief to Hurricane Mitch's victims in Central America. Captain Tim Lee runs the airfield.
We're trying to get it out as fast as we can.
Roads and bridges are washed out, making aircraft essential. Heavy lifting Chinook helicopters loaded with food move from Soto Cano to outposts like Il Seta, where hungry Hondurans wait anxiously.
We're to the phase of providing food.
Virtually all U.S. aid is coordinated through U.S. Southern Command's base here. Sometimes it's frustrating. A C-130 loaded with food returns to base. It tried to fly 70 miles north to a recently opened airfield in La Mesa, but the weather wouldn't cooperate.
The visibility was too poor, so unfortunately we had to abort the mission and come back to the base. La Mesa doesn't have a landline either. They're radio only, so we can't even call them and see if the weather's getting better.
Soto Cano's relief effort is supported by more than 600 personnel from all branches of the military. This facility was established by President Ronald Reagan in 1983 to help stop the spread of communism in Central America. This is the busiest it's been since that time.
We load and unload the aircraft. We're out there doing the marshaling, the building of cargo. We're doing a little bit of everything because we don't have enough people down here right now.
General Charles Wilhelm oversees all U.S. military operations in Latin America. He came to Soto Cano to determine what more is needed to carry out such a massive relief effort. On his list are more helicopters, heavy equipment, medical staff, and construction teams.
Engineer capabilities that will be needed to restore roads and bridges and to get the country back in a state where it's functioning and self-sufficient.
The devastation is so great, the U.S. military is expanding operations, adding another key base in El Salvador.
There are several alcoves of folks that are totally separated from airlift resupply, and we need to get those people food as well.
U.S. beefed up aid, sending $70 million of relief supplies. The teams at Soto Cano are ready to deliver it. Pat Neal, CNN, Soto Cano, Honduras.
Here in the United States, one of the compelling messages in this week's election was the peril of being the GOP's top messenger. And another revelation today from House Speaker Newt Gingrich. We'll have that straight ahead. And with John Glenn's return to space complete, we'll have his triumphant return to Earth.
The AIM Investor Pop Quiz. The first step to smarter investing is hoarding every penny. cutting up all your credit cards, seeing a financial consultant. Peace of mind comes from investing with discipline. AIM Mutual Funds.
We're from Pittsburgh, where there's a tradition of making things that last, making them solid, strong, reliable. At 4 Systems, we don't see why computer networks should be any different. So we make networks that won't go down, that handle anything your company throws at them. Networks that last. Hey, we're from Pittsburgh. That's how we make things here.
Yeah, it was amazing. Whole different world. You were a volunteer? Yeah. I saw a world that wasn't so fortunate. They needed help. In business, I see a world full of opportunity. Sales like how you don't do more. To help me take advantage of those opportunities, I invest in international funds with T. Rowe Price. I chose them because they work with analysts all over the world. See, I know what a difference being there can actually make.
T. Rowe Price, helping people invest with confidence for over 50 years.
I don't just paste my dentures anymore. Now I bond them with C-Bond denture adhesive.
Only C-Bond is a soft, micro-thin seal with 2 powerful adhesives that bond dentures to your gums, so they can hold and fit comfortably all day.
I can bite and chew with confidence.
And C-Bond is easier to use than pastes or powders with no messy cleanups.
I'll never paste my dentures again. I bond them with C-Bond.
Bond your dentures with C-Bond.
The AIM Investor Pop Quiz. You've got a long retirement ahead. You should learn to live on $100 a week. Move in with your kids. Take a swim. Have peace of mind. Call your financial consultant about AIM Mutual Funds.
Sunday on CNN's Late Edition, Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich resigns. We'll talk with House Democratic leader Dick Gephardt and top Republican Jack Kemp. Sunday, noon Eastern on CNN.
Less than 24 hours after announcing not to run for a 3rd term as Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich had more dramatic news today. The 20-year House veteran is leaving Congress altogether. They're surprised both in Washington and in his home district. CNN's Brian Cabell reports from Roswell, Georgia.
Republican activist Henry Ely worked hard for Newt Gingrich on the Speaker's last campaign. Now, with Gingrich's impending resignation, Ely is stunned.
I just can't believe it happened. I felt like crying last night, you know. That's how bad it was, you know.
The resignation came as a shock to many in the affluent 6th Congressional District just north of Atlanta. Gingrich served here for the last 6 years. He served in Congress for 2 decades. Now, Georgia GOP leaders gathered in Gingrich's campaign headquarters are looking ahead.
The party itself will come together, they'll elect a new speaker, and they'll go forward.
They'll apparently have to go forward without Gingrich, who Saturday did not give a precise date for his resignation. His replacement for the 6th congressional seat will come from a special election to be called by the governor.
The district that's conservative, that believes in cutting taxes, and that believes in having a Republican majority in the Congress, and I'll do all I can to elect a Republican, whoever gets the nomination.
It's a Republican district on paper. It's one of the safest Republican seats in the country.
Gingrich has been unclear about his future plans. Local GOP leaders say they hope he'll stay involved.
Like we see with Jimmy Carter, who has blossomed after he was president, I think we're going to take a great leader in Newt Gingrich, and he's going to take it that much further when he gets out of Congress, both in Georgia, in the United States, and throughout this country, throughout the world, in terms of doing that which we believe in.
Henry Ely agrees, but he'd still rather have Newt Gingrich as his congressman. Brian Cabell, CNN, Roswell, Georgia.
The Gingrich decision took most people by surprise. Included in that group, his most prominent adversary, President Clinton. With more on that, Kathleen Koch is at the White House. Kathleen?
Gene, the president got the very surprising news yesterday while visiting friends in Arkansas. And on his way to Camp David this afternoon, the president didn't elaborate on a statement he released then in which he called Gingrich a worthy adversary. The House Speaker was, of course, a thorn in this president's side, pledging to mention Monica Lewinsky in every speech and also launching the unsuccessful anti-Clinton scandal ads that ran during the recent elections. The Republican losses in the Tuesday vote leave Democrats on firmer political footing than they have been in years. So it will not take much for them to gain the advantage on very close votes in the House. Republicans, their majority now trimmed only to 6, are scrambling to find a leader to carry their message.
Obviously, our leadership has to change its approach so that the American people will be able to hear our message and be able to vote accordingly. I think when our message gets through to the American people, then we will continue to be in the majority, because I believe we represent what the majority of Americans want, which I mentioned earlier: less taxes, smaller government, more efficient spending of their money, and a strong Social Security system.
That was Congressman Bill Archer of Texas, a potential front-runner to succeed Gingrich, who this afternoon declared that he did not want the job. Now, one candidate did announce even before Gingrich had made his announcement that he was leaving office, and that was Bob Livingston of Louisiana. Livingston got quite a boost today when the number 3 Republican in the House, Congressman Tom DeLay of Texas, announced he was endorsing Livingston. So far, the only other announced candidate is Chris Cox of California. Neither of these men would grant us any interviews today, but they will both be putting in plenty of appearances tomorrow on the Sunday morning talk shows. Republicans say that they will be making some kind of order out of all this seeming disarray, but until then, Gene, you can bet that Democrats will be taking full advantage of it.
Well, Kathleen, on that point, if the Republicans, for a while at least, are preoccupied with putting their own house in order, and that creates opportunities for the Democrats, what are the issues President Clinton tends to put out front?
President Clinton this morning in his Saturday morning radio address focused on gun control, a very divisive issue when it comes to Republicans and Democrats. He wants to expand the Brady gun control law to cover gun shows. There are some 5,000 of them in the country every year, and he would like to see a required background check and perhaps even a waiting period. But there are also issues, health care, education, Social Security, things that didn't really get focused on during the last congressional session. Democrats are going to push those, and so will the president.
Kathleen Koch at the White House. Thank you, Kathleen. Marina?
You'll want to watch CNN's late edition as Wolf Blitzer takes a closer look at developments surrounding Newt Gingrich. Wolf will get reaction from both Republicans and Democrats on what this could mean for Congress and for the Clinton impeachment inquiry. That's late edition with Wolf Blitzer, Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Gene?
Stay with us. Just ahead, the safe return of John Glenn and the crew of Discovery.
When was the last time you felt the power of a mountain, the romance of a train, or the unexpected warmth of a stranger's smile? When was the last time you spotted orcas at play, or remembered how to spell Aurora Borealis? And when was the last time you felt so inspired by the simple act of looking out your window? Holland, America. It's time.
I'm a junior VP, and all the junior VPs have one of these. So I'll just call my secretary, and then she'll... Voicemail. Chuck, number 4's down.
Gotcha. I'm a mailroom guy, and all the mailroom guys get to see the phones that the senior VPs get.
Nextel's two-way radio feature makes ordinary cell phones seem ordinary.
Is it possible to insure a dream? At the Hartford, we help you do just that. With annuities, mutual funds, and financial plans designed to help you look forward to the future, not just protect you from it.
Son, we're preparing a will.
You don't have to say anything.
Actually, I think we do. Your sister's getting everything.
What?
You were a rotten kid. You drove your father crazy.
But I'm counting on that money to retire.
Hear that? Still greedy.
Never prepared himself.
Don't be caught unprepared. Get outstanding research, investment expertise, and global strength at Alliance Capital, because later is sooner than you think.
All eyes were on the Kennedy Space Center today as the shuttle Discovery returned to Earth with astronaut John Glenn. The mission he waited for more than 3 decades is now over. CNN's Miles O'Brien is at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Miles?
Marina, we had expected to hear from John Glenn and the rest of the Discovery 7 in just about an hour's time, but we just got a notice from NASA and from the chief flight surgeon here that the news conference, which had been expected for about 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, has been postponed until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow Eastern Time. Now, the flight surgeon says that everybody seems fine, in fact, better than average is what he says, and that John Glenn in particular is described as animated and in high spirits. What he is saying, however, is it's been a particularly long day for the astronauts. Their wake-up call came at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and they're still undergoing some 4 hours of medical tests. John Glenn in particular has a series of medical tests post-landing related to his experiments. Let's take a look at the landing, which was the culmination of a 9-day mission, which lasted 135 orbits, 3.6 million miles, and it was a fairly flawless landing. Commander Kurt Brown at the stick of the Space Shuttle Discovery on its 25th mission. They were a little bit concerned about crosswinds, turned out not to be a problem. Concerned about a drag chute door, which fell off at launch, turned out not to be a problem. Certainly an entirely different return to Earth than John Glenn experienced 36 years ago aboard Friendship 7. But his words, his first words to Mission Control after the landing, were an echo from the past.
Okay, hello Houston, this is PS2. I'm better known to a lot of you as John. And I want to reprise a statement I made a long, long time ago. Except this time it is 1G, and I feel fine. Discovery and this crew took us around and around, and that view is still tremendous. And seriously, to those whose prayers, along with my own, followed us around the world, our heartfelt thanks and appreciation.
As is customary for astronauts post-landing, they take a walk around their orbiter, which has taken them on their incredible odyssey. John Glenn clearly walking a bit gingerly as he tries to regain his land legs after 9 days in zero gravity. A statement from his daughter, Lynn Glenn, came out this evening saying he is ecstatic. He is walking with a wide gait as he gets his balance back. He was ecstatic to hug Annie Glenn, and it was a very long hug. They both seem to be very grateful to be together. So that is the situation on John Glenn. We won't be hearing from the rest of the astronauts until tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, CNN will bring that news conference to you live then. Miles O'Brien, CNN, reporting live from the Kennedy Space Center. Marina?
Thank you, Miles. Gene?
Still to come on WorldView, it is a rainy, miserable season in Ukraine.
John Glenn's Return to Space is brought to you by Lockheed Martin, the company that takes the most amazing ideas about the future and makes them fly, and by Norfolk Southern, the thoroughbred of transportation.
The U.S. Postal Service, with new automated systems from Lockheed Martin, is speeding the delivery of billions of pieces of mail and the occasional birthday present from Uncle Will. Interestingly, Lockheed Martin is also building America's next generation of fighter planes, which means we not only help deliver the present, but the future.
It's the transportation system of the next millennium, moving the goods that move our economy. An advanced computer network will track every shipment. Experienced engineers will oversee each mission. But perhaps the most remarkable feature of this system of tomorrow is that it's here, today. Norfolk Southern, the future of transportation, is the thoroughbred of transportation.
My parents read to me as a child, and I'll always be grateful for that. The newspapers they read helped me understand the world, and the fairy tales came in handy when I played Cinderella. Hi, I'm Brandy, and I urge you to read to your children every day, especially newspapers. Newspapers help them learn the difference between fact and fantasy. So start reading to your children today. It can help make their wishes come true.
Encourage your child to read a newspaper every day.
They are the most environmentally vulnerable of all living things.
To commit to their future is to commit to ours. Southern Company, America's largest generator of electricity, is planting 20 million trees and pioneering the use of electric vehicles, all in a commitment to cleaner air. So as they take flight into the future, we'll be down here, helping to keep the environment clean and the power on. We are Southern Company, energy to serve your world.
I'm watching you, CNN.
CNN's Reliable Sources is coming up. Howard Kurtz has a preview.
Coming up, Newt Gingrich and his combative history with the news media. Also, why did Election Day predictions fall short, and did the press have a hand in Republican losses? Plus, Jesse the Governor, why the media went gaga over a pro wrestler turned politician. That's all next on Reliable Sources.
And later, coming up on The World Today, imagine traveling coast to coast in under an hour. Learn about research on hypersonic transport. But will the dream ever get off the ground? A report on The World Today at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Rain is expected to continue this weekend in the Ukraine, where flooding has forced thousands of residents from their homes. Heavy rains have triggered numerous floods and landslides in western sections of Ukraine. 2 people have been killed, hundreds have been injured. One official calls the disaster unprecedented. And now with a check of the weather forecast for the weekend, here's CNN's Rose Stapler. Rose?
Thanks, Marina. I'd like to show you the radar summary of the United States, and I've been showing this a good bit today, and the main reason I'm showing it is because we've got so much snow going on in the plain states. You can see most of the snow now is concentrated over Iowa, and we've got a big area of low pressure centered over eastern Kansas, and this system is bringing southerly winds in from the Gulf, thus the thunderstorms and the rain activity in the south. Then it's bringing winds in from Canada in a southward direction, so the snow and then the ice change over before the rain. And then this is the system I'd like to focus on because it is our first major winter storm of the season, and you can see it moving inland, and it is causing some snow but mainly rain in the lower elevations, and it's diving into the U.S. pretty rapidly. You can see it pushing in pretty quickly into the Pacific Northwest. The other system causing the snow and the rain in the central section of the country is also clearing out pretty quickly, so the plain states are starting to see some clearing. The East Coast looking great, and it's going to look nice throughout the forecast period through Monday morning. For tomorrow morning, very heavy snow in the Pacific Northwest, a little nice weather in the plain states, and we're going to see a good bit of rain over Louisiana and Texas due to this frontal system, which will be dying out. Nice weather in the east due to that area of high pressure. Now, this area of low pressure, this winter storm system is going to cause a lot of snow, but it's going to dive pretty quickly to the southwest, and by Monday morning we'll be over the San Juan Mountains of the southern Rockies, causing some snow there, and we'll see some rain from Wyoming into Iowa with lingering snow over Montana and East Coast looking pretty nice. Gene?
Thank you, Rose. It was a moving ceremony today in London. France paid tribute to British veterans who fought on the Western Front during World War I. At the Imperial War Museum, the French ambassador presented 13 British vets with the Legion of Honor. In Washington, U.S. veterans of the First World War were honored as well with a traditional parade. The official observance of Veterans Day is Wednesday, the 80th anniversary of the armistice. And that's all for this edition of WorldView. I'm Gene Randall in Washington. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, Marina.
Good night, Gene. And I'm Marina Colby at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Thank you so very much for watching.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Bell Atlantic, your guide through the wiles of communications.
Tonight